Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Beating the Press with your great hosts, Chris and me, Ty. Today's going to be slightly different in that normally we'll always have a bit of a laugh and a joke. We'll try and be a bit more serious this time. It's on the back of, we thought we'd do a podcast on the back of Greg Clarke's comments at the select committee meeting, which was on Wednesday, I believe, yeah. Obviously, for those that haven't heard what he said, he's obviously resigned now after on the whole aftermath of it. He obviously, the first part was on when he was sort of talking about black players and he referred to them as coloured. And he just carried on talking, didn't think it was offensive. And it was one of the guys on the select committee who just sort of said to him, "I'm just to pull you up on there, you need to apologise." And he said, "Oh no, if I may make 3 points." And he said, "No, you don't, you just need to say one, which is sorry, you know." And I think just for him to sort of go with that mindset and thought process and to say that, and I've heard the argument since of people saying, I didn't know coloured was offensive. And I'm like, well, that's okay for you and it's okay to not know, but the issue is you've got to educate yourself, and that's all right for you as an individual. But for the chairman of the biggest game and our biggest governing body to say that and not be corrected, not having to be corrected by a select committee where he's talking to MPs and the government effectively. But then he followed that up. It wasn't just that in isolation. Just to give people a bit of history, the last time he got pulled into one of these, he said the institutional racism was just a bit of fluff when he was asked about it. And then just to sort of follow on from this select committee, that wasn't the only thing he said. He followed it up by saying, basically he said, they asked, if you go to the IT department at the FA, there's a lot more South Asians that are Afro-Caribbeans, different career interests. That was just stereotyping South Asians. It's not like South Asians haven't had enough stereotypes over the years, when it comes to football. And you can talk about all the work that the FA do, and I know they do a lot of work, and I know there are some really good people at the FA who do loads of good work. But having people like that at the top of the game, and the way it works is you've got boards and councils, and you only get elected, and then it's just the same old white guys that are going through the rigmarole, and it's just them getting the top gigs again, and it's like jobs for boys, and it's ridiculously, words and talking about it only does so much, and I think it's got to a point now, and I think on the back of the Black Lives Matter movement and where we are at the moment, and the funding cuts that the FA have had to do, and then just I don't want to swear, but I do want to swear, but the fucking wank, stupid language that he's using. This is the chairman of the FA, and you can't reiterate that enough. And I just think it ties the whole FA with a really bad reputation, and people saying, "Oh yeah, get rid of it." And I think, I think we're at the point now where the whole FA needs to get, and I say it, and I mean this really nice because I know people that work at the FA and they do some brilliant work, but it needs a revamp. I think it almost might be a case of the DCMS saying to right, okay, we're going to get rid of you. We're going to disband you because the issue is with the constitution, the way it's all set up, you can only become the chairman. You get on the council and the board, just like you've got to be members of leagues, and it's always these old white guys. You know what I mean? There's no diversity, and I'm not one of those people that you've got to be black, Asian, or female to be the top person for the job. Because no, you want the best person for the job. That's number one, absolutely. But these old white guys that we've had for like the last 150 odd years, they've been shit. Nothing's really changed. It's all sort of lip service to say, right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, putting these strategies forward. I think it's called the Equality Code or something along those lines. Someone might correct me. That's been released sort of the week before, and then he goes and says that, and it's just like, come on, fucking hell, can someone sort of prep him? It's like, just say the right stuff. It's not even, just educate yourself. That's all we're asking. But I'm not going off on a bit of a rant, but you'd think those were the two only things that he said, and he'd wrap it up. But no, yeah. He followed it up. He followed it up with it was the thing about the girls saying, "Oh, little girls don't like balls getting whacked at them." I'm like, can you be any more stereotypical? Fuck me, mate. It's 2020. I run like a underrated girls team, and I don't think anyone. Some of them get smashed the ball in the face. I don't think any boy likes the ball getting whacked at him either. No, I'm 38 when I'm playing football. I don't want the ball smashed at me when it's freezing. But why say that about girls? And it's just like, me. Do you know? It was just absolutely bonkers. And then and then he said about gays as well. Then he said gay and lesbian. He said, "Oh, it's a life choice," and they got pulled up for that as well. And it was just like he's just off. I mean, there was no other. He couldn't do anything else. His position was untenable. He had to go, and he's resigned. And then the worst thing about it all was, his sort of resignation statement was just embarrassing. It was like, "Well, I was going to leave anyway." You know what I mean? It's like, by the way, oh yeah, fuck off, see ya. Do you know what I mean? I'm not, and I don't want to absolute. I mean, it sounds like I'm absolutely nailing it, which I probably am, and I don't want it to come across like that because I know he has pushed diversity in there, but he did a lot of good. I mean, Gareth Southgate mentioned in his interview. He did a lot of good stuff when England had the issue. I think it was at Montenegro when they had, and he went out there and he really pushed and he lobbied UEFA to make some change. You know what I mean? So it's not. You can make mistakes, but you don't make mistakes when you're the chairman of the FA, and you don't make one mistake. You've pretty much gone and made four, and it's not the first time you've done it. I mean, he's apparently, I saw on Twitter from like well-known journalists, he'd refused interviews for the last year, and I don't know why his refusal or the FA have said we don't want him anywhere near a fucking microphone because But yeah, that's just my little rant of it all, and I think the FA as a whole need to have a rethink and think they get someone who's happy to get rid of boards at the top, not boards, sorry, get rid of bodies at the top who are just there, for the England tickets and bit of position of power and not really have any desire to change. I've heard so many speeches and stuff on the back of it from people, and it's the same old lip service. I'm 38, man. I've heard this shit for like 20-25 years. Yeah. We've both lived through it. I've seen it through grassroots level all the way through, and it's just recently where it's just sort of been, it's back at the forefront. I always think we talk about these people that are making comments, and generally why at the FA, they'll say it, but they don't take it home with them. Do you know what I mean? And if you're not white and you've played the game, someone said something to you, that stays with you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And there's like so much bigger. I mean, we've both played in like Wayside League. I mean, I played in Wayside League with you, and I remember I was the only Asian in the whole entire league. And I think you were the only other sort of non-white person. We were both in the same team. Do you know what I mean? and you don't look back at it then, and you don't realise how much it was. And you think of all the teams that are there. Now I'm sort of playing in West Yorkshire. It's a bit more diverse. But again, it's like that's just playing level, and then ultimately the real change needs to happen at the senior level, at the board level. Do you know what I mean? Where real decision makers are. But then it's like, how much do they want that to happen? Because ultimately, if someone's going to go there, someone else has got to lose their job. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're white, black, or whatever. If you've got a position of power, you don't really want to give it up. And I just think it's sort of like, well, I think it has got to the stage where the FA just sort of needs to get. It just needs to get government need to get control of it and say, bang, you're not fit. You're not fit for purpose. We're going to have a new body in place. This is how we're going to do it. You get enough funding, and what do you really do? We've asked you for one thing, to make it inclusive, more diverse. It's the same thing every 4 years. We have this. Nothing changes. It's just fucking lip service, and we need action. And I think what's that action going to be? How long is it going to be again? Are we going to have the same conversation in another year when someone else slips up and it's just going to be all right? Another resignation, another white guy gets it. I mean, the couple of favourites at the moment, the front runners seem to be Paul Elliott and Baroness. I don't know what her name is. It's Seuss. I don't want to get her name wrong, but she's a female lead, and I think she'll be really good. But from what I've heard, she will really put some of those blazers in place. But I'm going to take a breath and I'll let you speak, because I think I went off for ages there.
Right, so that was the Beating the Press podcast for this week. I've been Kristian.
Oh, brilliant.
No, honestly, I forgot I was even in a podcast. I was actually just listening like I was listening to a podcast. There's some really good points you made. Before we come on, we have a little bit of a chat about we don't give away what we like to say just because we want it to come across as genuine as we haven't scripted it. And a lot of what I was going to say again has gone out of the window because you've kind of educated me on quite a few things that I didn't actually know about. For the viewers that don't know, we've mentioned it a few times, but Ty's worked in the FA for a couple of jobs, you would say.
Yeah, well, it's not FA, it's county FA. So you've got county FA across the country. You get funding from the FA. So we're kind of linked with the FA. Obviously, I know staff there as well.
But you have a good knowledge of the insights. A lot of what they're taught, a lot of the training processes, and things that they should know and that they shouldn't know. I was originally going to come on and. For those of you that can't actually see, because of this light, and I am actually mixed race, if I speak on this, I was going to actually say that maybe you should give him a second chance. And the reason being was I thought it was a slip of using the word colour. So he's basically, I think I've got it over here. This is a quote. If I look at what happens to high-profile female footballers, to high-profile coloured footballers, and the abuse they take on social media is a free-for-all. So now, when I read that, I've took that under consideration that is him defending. It's kind of like he's kind of sticking up for players. Look at the abuse that they take online. So when reading that, I thought, yeah, he said the word coloured. He shouldn't have said it. He should know. You tell me that he should know. He should know that that's not the correct language to use. You kind of, right, slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. He's kind of that era. And I hate to give people excuses. There's never an excuse for any form of racism. But, the people that tend to get away with it is when they're of a certain age. You kind of think, were they taught? Do they know any better? They're from an era where it was kind of acceptable to say certain things, but he hasn't meant that in a racist way. He's just saying it, and you mentioned the word thought process. His brain hasn't engaged there. He's just said a thing that's in his head which shouldn't be there. But then you mentioned the other things, which usually when you're trying to get yourself out of a hole, you don't continue to dig even further down into that hole. And that's obviously what he went on to do. He went on to speak about the girls, the South Asians. And once you start digging, and then you're still not realizing what you're doing wrong, that shows that it's inherent in you. And that's not someone that needs to be effectively leading the FA.
I'm just going to come in and make 2 points. I know some viewers might be watching and thinking, well, what's so bad about coloured? If I said it, I wouldn't, if I said it, I wouldn't mean it racist, but it may come across as offensive. Yeah. So the reason why coloured is offensive is it's from sort of American times and probably a bit of apartheid as well. So you'd have like white only and coloured only. So that was a distinction between sort of, white was a superior race, and you're fine to be called white, and whereas this is the coloured section, so if you're not quite good enough, you're there. So it's getting rid of that old terminology that gets used.
Coloured Irish dogs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. And then just one other thing there, and I'll let you go back. Sorry, you hog the thing. With Greg Clarke, and I've had experience as well at county FA level. What you find with these sort of older guys, and I don't know, older guys, with the racists, there's no other word for it. What they say in front of camera, they're generally really, really careful, so you'll never catch them out. The only way you'll never find someone if someone's racist is what they say when they're comfortable, when they're at home, when they're with their mates, when they're with their own inner circle, and what they say and the language that they use then. Now, when they make that slip and they say something in public, you just sometimes question yourself. So, what if they're talking like that in front of the government? What the fuck are they like at home? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just think it's sort of that's the bigger issue with it all. So I think there's a lot of people that are careful and fine. You're never going to know what someone's like unless you're in there in a circle. You've got a mic, handily snuck around.
Yeah, I would say we're quite liberal people, and we're quite understanding people. We generally have a good perception of when people are saying it in a derogatory way, when they have made a mistake, and a flippant comment like that. Like, it's rare that someone says something and you don't know their intentions behind it. So, I do think there is like a bit of a cancel culture at the moment. which is maybe going a bit over the top. Not necessarily, not for this specific case, but the cancel culture at the moment is ridiculous. You say one thing wrong, and that's you done.
Yeah.
But in terms of race, like you say, the way things are going on at the moment, he should know better. Black Lives Matter. He should, like you say, he should have been briefed. I'm just thinking though, the languages that are used, it's difficult for people to kind of keep up with what is relevant. Like, the average person on the streets, not necessarily someone that's worked in the FA, not someone like yourself that's been in that environment. Mixed race, half caste, black, coloured. These are just some of the things that I've wrote down there. It's difficult to. I understand that it's difficult for people like, I think he mentioned people of color. That was something that he was used to because he used to work in America. Now, people of color, I think that's an accepted term in America.
Yeah.
Now, it's difficult. I understand that it's difficult for people that are not in the know to know what to say, but the reason why he can't be forgiven, why he should lose his position, is because he should have known. So obviously there are going to be people out there that are going to be watching this and they're like, yeah, totally disagree. He shouldn't have lost his job. He's only done this. He's only just said a wrong word. But again, you can go on to sexuality. You can go on about where he's talking about Asians. It's inherent in him.
I think it's a really good point that. I mean, just to give you a bit of context. I mean, we've both got a similar circle of friends, and I think we've probably got a fair mix between. I'd say most of our friends are white. We've obviously got some Asian friends and mixed race, and some black friends as well. I mean, but both our partners are white as well. So we're not someone we're not a couple of guys that are just banging on the sort of bandwagon, banging on drums and just saying, this is we want it. We think, but this is something we've sort of experienced and lived through, and we've both been involved in football for the last sort of 25, 30 years. So we've seen the change. We've seen sort of having to have a thicker skin playing and thinking, there's no sort of out here, And the other thing that I really want to point out is you're talking about the cancel culture. The bit that really, really pisses me off is when something like this happens, you'll see all these anti-racist charities jumping on and saying, we deplore this and all that shit. And I'm thinking, where the fuck are you for the rest of the year? Are you only there when someone says something wrong just to jump on? I'm like, I don't see anything. I don't know what you're doing. I genuinely don't know what you're doing. Something might happen. You might go put an event on. You might go give someone a T-shirt. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You can say, I just feel sometimes it's like, if you're an anti-racist charity, no one wants to question you because you're anti-racist. Some people are going to be getting paid and you've managed to get, and I just think it's sort of like, and I thought, and I know on the back of the Black Lives Matter, I know Premier League were thinking of starting up their own sort of anti-racist and led by the players as well, and I think something like that would have had real value, because you've got, Kick It Out have been together around for like how many decades. I mean, what have they done? I've not noticed anything. You talk bigger issue. I'm just sort of nitpicking it, and not nitpicking it. I'm picking up on stuff that's really frustrating and thinking people just sort of want their limelight, and jumping in and getting on Sky Sports News, and it's just a bit of lip service. It's like I'm sick. I'm sick of words. We just need action. Stuff needs to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you think that there's enough being done, or do you think that after a certain amount of time, let's say another 30 years, once it becomes like a different generation, me and you are going to be like, what, in our 60s, 70s by that point, and then it's going to become a different generation where they've lived through the Black Lives Matter movement. Do you think it will reduce, or do you think it will reduce?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've mentioned this before, and I've said it a few times, and it sounds so horrible, but until these old white guys, until they either move on or die, and the next generation comes up, we're not going to have change. Or the other thing is the government take over and get rid of all the sort of old guys who think it's okay to have a slip at the tongue. Do you know what I mean? That needs to be removed and out of it. So there's two ways of that happening. Either it naturally happens, or option B, the government come right. You've had it long enough, and the change isn't quick enough. No one wants to wait 20 years. You know what I mean? So I just think that there's two options, and it's pick one or the other. And I think it's got to the point where the government need to go with option B and think, right, we need to fucking move on here.
Yeah, it's that time of the podcast again, cliche time. Nobody's born racist. So you know, at some point that excuse of, oh well, I was brought up that way, it's gonna die, because you know it was okay to be racist 50 years ago. You know, now, you know, over the last 20 years, if you've been brought up into like this generation, you know that it's not okay. You know that it's not okay for your parents, like they should be teaching you that it's not okay. So I think it will improve, but you'll never get it 100% perfect. But I do think, and I totally agree with you, we just need to totally revamp the FA.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, guys, that was just a quick one. We thought it'd be handy to put it out. It was just something both, but it's obviously, I mean, not quickly. We started quickly, but we're a bit longer than what we'd planned for. But we just sort of thought, we're obviously, you know, we've both got our thoughts, and we're both quite liberal people as well. And I don't think we're not those people that just think, you know, everything's this is the racist, anti-racist. You know, we've met lots of people, different colours, backgrounds, you know, everything. And like I said, I just felt it was good for us to get a podcast. It's a bit more serious than normal. But I think it deserves it, and I just hope. Not, I mean, we've obviously, I mean, my career is going to be over soon. Yours is, you know, nearly there. So I think it's just a case of let's just finish it and move on. When I say finish it and move on, let's just finish the race and hopefully sort of, you know, progress and let's make it easy for the following generation. Well, yeah, that's this week, guys. Thanks for listening. I've been Ty.
I'm Kristian. Cheers.
See you guys. Bye.